Oh, it's 5:30. We don't have a quorum yet, but we're working on it. And I see that Vito's here. I see that Susan's here. And we'll need to have a couple more folks on to get a quorum, and then we will get started. Oh, and someone's calling in. Let's see who that is.
Jason is on the phone line.
Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Jason, do you have an agenda? Are you able to facilitate the meeting, or how do you want to move forward? This is our first Zoomy thing.
Yeah, I'm totally open. I am working on getting the shared documents portion opened because I just don't have a mic or a camera, but I've got access all the other ways. So whatever you think is easiest as far as facilitating. I mean, I can call the items out and we can roll from there. Or if you want to take control because it's easier, that's fine too.
Yeah, I have control of the screen. I'll be sharing the screen here in a few minutes once we welcome everyone. And if you want to, do the honors and then just move it on, and I'll go from there like we normally do.
Yeah, fair enough. That works good for me.
Okay. Jason, are you doing this from your cell phone?
I am, yes.
Are you able to put the app on your cell phone? Because then you would be able to see the PowerPoint. We wouldn't be necessarily.
Well, I've got you up on computer, so I can see the shared document.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Perfect. Then you'll be able to see everything.
Yeah, but you're right. I should just try to get it. That way I can have my camera up and all that.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh, and Sylvia's on, it looks like. And there's one more person calling in. Oh, that's you. Jason's calling in and he's on the computer. 1, 2, 3, 4. And Mike, Dara. Oh, I'll do that. So that's in a quorum, right? Nikki?
We have 6 members right now. So yeah, we have a quorum.
Okay. Hi, Sylvia. Put her light on. So Jason, we do have a quorum, and
okay.
I will bring up the agenda so that we can all follow along.
All right, we'll show we got a quorum. Nikki's taking attendance, and so has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from way back in February? It's been a little while.
Yes.
Any questions, concerns, changes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Susan motions to accept the minutes as written.
Accept the minutes as written. Okay. All in favor?
Did you get a second?
Oh, no, we didn't do so.
Sylvia gestured.
Oh, I hope it was positive. Sylvia seconded your motion.
All right, second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, unanimous approval 3 continues. Nikki, did anyone come in for public comment?
No, I didn't receive any public comments.
All right, we'll mark no public comments. And rolling into new business, we have the public art recommendation from Sally.
Ooh, sorry, I was getting all excited about talking. I forgot that I was the keeper of the universe. So everybody, we have Sally Martinez here. You've met Sally before. She is a recreation coordinator. She has done presentations for us on our special events and farmers market and some of the other exciting things that we do. And she's going to share a public art program presentation that she'll be showing the council But she was on our agenda to share it with you tonight. And so I think technically we were going to share it with council a couple of months ago, but it's gotten kind of pushed back based on all the business that's been happening. So anyway, so she's going to share it with us. And what I think it'd be easiest is if she went through the presentation and then we'll ask for questions at the end. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so let's take
Okay.
it away, Sally.
So I just wanted to mention that I'm the staff liaison to the Arts Commission, and they have been working probably for the last 8 months on this public art program recommendation, researching best practices from other cities that have invested in a public art program. And I think the overall thing I want to get across is with the public art program, it's different than a policy. It's different than a one-off piece of art. It's a very comprehensive program, both short and long term, that we're looking at. So I like to think of it as kind of like a business plan. You wouldn't start a business or a chain of restaurants or shops without a really solid business plan in place. And so that's what we see as this public art program that I'm presenting today. That's again, a result of the Arts Commission's work. And it is in line with our legacy plan. So why a public art program? Well, it provides a really cohesive and efficient process. As you know, right now, we have several pieces of art in Lakewood, and they're just kind of done on a one-off basis. So we want to have a funding source, we want to have a budget, we want to have policies and guidelines, and they're all encompassed in this so that we get off the ground, off and running on a really solid basis that's all based on this written program. It also gives identity to the community, and it increases the economic impact by attracting tourism, and it beautifies Lakewood, making it an attractive place to live and work. So public art programs do in fact attract tourists, and this just shows some solid research from the Travel Industry Association of America, that there are literally millions of cultural travelers. And interestingly, people who travel for cultural reasons spend more than the average tourist. So that piqued our interest because we have lodging tax money and we're always looking at programs to bring into Lakewood. And we like the idea of doing something around art. So how could art bring visitors to Lakewood? This next slide shows the Cal.
Sally, we
Yes.
can't see a slide, or I can't see a slide on my side.
Do you not see that?
There's still the agenda.
Seriously? Huh.
Did you see the ones before?
None of the slides, no.
Okay, let's go back here and see what's happening here. Thank you for sharing that.
We can see it now.
Okay, so
You didn't miss anything.
you didn't miss anything except for the pretty pictures. Cohesive, identity, economic impact, cultural travelers, millions of visitors.
Okay, so this is just to give you an example of something that we could do. That was done in Chicago that brought 2 million visitors over 3 months and $500 million. Obviously, that's very grandiose, but we could do something on a small scale very similar to that.
Jason, did you ever see any of these cows in Chicago?
I did, and it was a fantastic display and very cool. And they've one-offed them in other cities as well. Very
Yeah.
popular program. It'd be cool to see around Lakewood.
Ah,
Yeah, when you read about these, it's just very doable, I guess is what I would say.
Yep.
So next slide, I just wanted to briefly go over what do we have currently in Lakewood. Well, we have, the Lotus Blossom. We have the George Studakawa Fountain at the Chase Bank. We have some brass fish on the wall between UP and Lakewood right at the entrance. And the bronze leaves at the Sounder Station. Now we are also adding in the middle, you can see the renderings of Perry Howard's artwork, which is 2 pieces at the entrance of the Colonial Plaza. So there's no necessarily rhyme or reason. Each artist was selected individually. So the proposal of the art program is there would be a common theme running through these. going forward. So we were fortunate to have two professionals facilitate a public art program charrette for us. And we would say had a very balanced microcosm of the community in that meeting between artists and professionals, business owners, and staff. And what we learned was that the city of Lakewood wants art that connects communities, that's accessible and interactive, that reflects our diverse community, that'll beautify existing structures, that'll attract visitors with rotating art, and that will be cost effective. So the first steps would be in the first year, and we were looking at 21, maybe it's 2022 now with the way things are going. But the first steps are having a solid funding plan, asking the city council to adopt a solid funding plan and an art integration framework plan. The art integration framework plan is just kind of a fancy word, I would say, again, for a business plan. It is a document that we pay for that's done by a professional, typically an artist who has a background in this type of work. And it is a big document that really lays out everything that we're going to do that we use as a guideline going forward. And then our priorities are going to be these things: wraps for signal and utility boxes, murals, rotating art, interactive art, and large-scale iconic art. And I'm going to talk about each one of those, but they are in order of how they would be implemented. The least expensive types of art coming first, the wraps and murals. Okay, so art wraps for signal and utility boxes. Tacoma's doing a great job with these. They're low cost. They really focus on emerging artists. So most likely we get to have an artist who lives in the city of Lakewood develop these wraps and design them. What they found is that when you implement art in communities and neighborhoods that have never had art, for instance, you wrap a signal box, it starts piquing their interest and it starts getting them excited. And then they realize it's a local artist. And then they start wanting more. And they've learned that's a really good way to slowly integrate public art. We would start with the most busy intersections. There's actually 120 locations for these.
As a note too, if you recall at Wards Lake Park, one of the recommendations as part of that development project, which we're moving forward with, is wrapping the utility boxes out in front because it's such a limited access and it's not very attractive. So that could be even a starting spot for the project.
Yeah, and so our next slide is that this is the concept that's been integrated into Wards Lake master plan. And it shows kind of the really unsightly utility boxes on the left and then what it could look like. Okay, and I talked about it engaging emerging artists and local artists. In the next slide. And then we move on to murals. So murals are a way to connect neighborhoods. So an area that came up is, for example, Chillicum, the city of Chillicum, or the area of Chillicum, and then the new passageway that's going to connect Chillicum to Gravelly Lake. And they thought, what about if you could put a mural there? And there were several other examples of, for instance, connecting Colonial Plaza to Town Center. Can we use murals to do that? So art as a way to connect neighborhoods, definitely to deter graffiti, very low cost. It beautifies and it engages the community and reflects the community's stories in the art. So it's an avenue to represent diversity in our community. Mary actually found this. It was in Olympia, I believe, and the Tree of Life had 3D leaves that reflected different cultures. So it can celebrate our diversity, tell people stories, and in so doing, be more accepted by the people in the community. This is an example of a painting that we could imagine on, one of the barns, let's say at Fort Silicon Park. Some murals can be used to, represent the history of an area. And they can engage youth. And there's several programs we found out about that have a mentor artist that work with youth. And it's a little bit like a paint by number. they create the design, paint it, and it keeps the youth busy all summer. Then we're moving on to rotating art. So now we're getting into the more expensive pieces that would come maybe in the long-term plan 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road. And the rotating art's amazing because it's so cost effective. You aren't buying the art, it's on loan for maybe 1 or 2 years. So it's ever changing. No one gets bored of it. It engages the community and hopefully they can interact with it. And it helps the artists because it showcases their artwork and people can purchase it if they want to. And we'll go on to the next slide. There is the concept of having a fan favorite, so the community can get really involved by voting on which one they like. And then at the end of the year, at the end of 2 years, the city would maybe buy one piece of that art, which becomes a permanent installation, let's say at Fort Silicon Park, at Lake Wahop, or at Colonial Plaza. And then in terms of attracting tourists and engaging other areas, people from other areas, they put on their website, they number the artwork, you click on it, then up pops the artwork, tells a little bit about it, shows the location on a map. So really interactive. And the Arts Commission is hoping for interactive art because it really sends a message that we're creating artwork for the people of Lakewood, for people of all ages. They can touch it, they can feel it, they can engage with it. And they're much less likely to have resentment, I think, over spending large sums of money on art that actually benefits them in a very tangible way. And lastly, there's the iconic sculptures. Of course, they're the most expensive, and but they are the most visible. They're iconic. They create a sense of place and or something that maybe you can see from the freeway, and they're very memorable. So this is something that would be implemented later on in the process. And this is an example of where Sound Transit did their art nails on the trails. These are the large iconic sculptures, and they're currently putting in a large art piece at their new maintenance facility in Lakewood with the goal of beautification and a budget of $150,000. And they're going to have 5 people from Lakewood on that panel. So the great news is there are other people doing this artwork, so it doesn't have to be just the City of Lakewood, the Arts Commission, however we decide to fund it. We have partners and sponsors, and Sound Transit is one of them.
The other thing that's exciting too is, as like we did with the gateways, when other people are doing projects, if we can benefit from that efficiency, that's so great. And if we have a good plan in place, then we help drive what those decisions are versus just being given something and saying, here, don't you love it? And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So.
And then the most important part is how are we going to fund this? So we want to be really frugal and really have our ducks in a row for our funding sources. The Arts Commission would like to recommend to City Council $1 per capita. And we also have the McGavick City Days, which brings in about roughly $15,000 a year. And then any sponsors or grants. I did want to mention that in the past, a kind of an old model is 1% of construction projects towards public art. All the cities I talked to, and I talked to a lot about this, they're really trying to move away from that model. They find it really restrictive and kind of wish they hadn't gone that direction. So that was an important thing to learn. And then for donor recognition, of course, we'll want to reach out to donors and sponsors. And these are just some ways that we can recognize them by putting their names on pieces that maybe are in the mural. And these are some really pretty examples of it, like embedding names and stepping. And maybe having a small ceremony around that to really honor the people that support art in the community. This is a wall that has names of people in stones. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
I have a couple of comments, Mary. And so I think it's a great plan, Sally, well thought out, and I think art adds a tremendous amount to the community. And so two things that I just thought of as you're giving your presentation were, right now you've got the Hope Grows in Tacoma. And so I know you've got your priorities and it's kind of about the types of artwork, but, you know, to me, a priority would be engaging the community in that artwork. And, you know, we do different programs where you invite the community to read a book, say the whole community is reading a book, you know, maybe it's the whole community is working on a mosaic project or X project. And so I think incorporating that into the plan is great. And then finally, I can tell you we've had huge success in Federal Way with the transportation boxes and wrapping those and, you know, just add touch of color to the community, local artists. It's a great program, and I'm excited to see that around Federal Way.
Oh, great. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Sally also didn't go into a lot of detail on the financial aspects, but again, a dollar per capita would give us about $60,000 a year. And based on that, she's got a 6-year action plan that would look at how we could implement this on a case-by-case basis, and how we would start with something small and then develop it into maybe some of the more iconic things. So it's a very doable thing. And then again, they're with the different ways of funding that. And I think Mike Lackady had a question. Mike, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? I see Mike raised his hand. Mike, I see that you raised your hand. I think, can you unmute yourself and share? Sometimes if you push your space.
I got it.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Mike.
All right. I had trouble getting in because when I went to your link, I couldn't do it. So I had to go to my app to do it. And my excuse is I'm 3/4 of a century old today. And so
Oh, happy birthday.
all kinds
Happy
of things could have
birthday.
happened.
Birthday.
I'm lucky I found my phone.
Well, I think Brianna was letting everybody in, and if you were just a tad late, she might have moved on to another activity. So sorry about that, but thanks for trying so hard to get in here. You probably made it easier than I would have, so.
Well,
What was your question?
it's easier to do it on the desktop, but my wife has a meeting at 6:30 on Zoom on the desktop. So I was regulated to this iPhone.
Did you have a question, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Did you have a question or were you just sharing?
No, I did not. No, I
Okay,
was just
all right.
trying to
Okay.
figure out how to unmute myself and to get on and make
Oh,
sure that
good.
I was being heard. That's all.
Yeah, welcome. Well, I'm glad you're with us. So, are there any more questions for Sally, or thoughts or things that you might want her to share with council based on feedback from the park board? Okay.
Thank you for your
Do you need a
time.
motion or anything, Mary?
If you'd like to make a motion to support it or make a motion for something, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the Parks Art Recommendation Plan as written and encourage support of the arts.
I'll
And
second it.
Susan
A
seconding it.
from Sylvia. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, unanimous approval streak, we keep it going.
Great, thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Sally.
Thanks.
All right, now we will,
I figured out what I
now
did.
we'll prepare.
Did you want me to move forward, Jason? I'm sorry, I think I cut you off.
Yeah, no, it cut out on me, I'm sorry. And so, yeah, we're moving on to our joint meeting with council coming up next month.
Next month, yes, it's coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, Oh, 2 weeks, yeah, you're right.
So, yeah, on June 8th, we'll be meeting with our city council, our annual joint meeting. The park board's always the first group to meet with city council. So we get to set the tone for the season. And so I think we may be Zooming that because I'm not sure they'll be back in the council chambers. It just depends on if the governor adds something about the Open Public Meetings Act. There's some legislation that has to happen, but that may still occur. But we'll get you in the loop so that you know what's happening. But what we typically do, of course, is go over the work plan, which you all looked at and developed the work plan at one of our last meetings in January. So this is a summary of our work plan. And since we kind of go April to April with the council in the past we have, that's sort of what we went with here. So I'm going to pull that up. So that's really the main focus of our conversation. So what we wanted to do is we talk about our accomplishments since middle of last year, some of the big topics that we worked on and some of the work that you did. And then you can see what our work plan was or is for 2020. Of course, we haven't met for the last several months. So that's put a little bit of a halt on some of the work that you would normally be a part of. But anyway, so what we wanted to do is chat about, did we forget anything, first of all, so that we can include the work that you did or the conversations that you've had. What did we forget, if anything? And then also, it's a good time to have a one-on-one conversation with council regarding any questions that you have or concerns that you have, or maybe get some direction from them if there's a topic that we're working on or feedback that you want. So I will just sort of open the floor up. Just for the record, which I was going to talk about a little bit, is that they did approve the legacy plan. So that was a big document with a lot of goals and visions and strategies in there. And so that was approved in May. So if there's anything from the legacy plan conversations that you wanted to have a conversation about, that's fresh on their plates. So at this point, I'll just take it from, we'll take notes and gather information. And then again, if there's questions or topics, we can pursue those a little bit more and then send something back out to you for review prior to our meeting on June the 8th.
Mary, one thing I noticed that I didn't see is we did the Edgewater Park work and met with the community. And so I don't know if we want to add that on there.
I think it was in January, and that's why we didn't add it onto this plan.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Yeah, you know, that's gotten pushed back because of, it took forever. The Public Works was concerned, and then they, we had to do the survey, and I just actually got the survey here, and there's a couple of questions regarding, you know, was the whole park really in the water, and can we do a one-way, and blah, blah, blah. So we're still kind of focusing on that. But I think it shows up in our work program as being an update. So it's coming up, but.
Right. Is
there anything
and so generally, generally we all kind of take I'll provide kind of a background on what we accomplished in the past. Vito's then kind of talked about what our work plan is. And then we all kind of line up with the question that we all ask. Do we want that same format, or do we want to change it a little bit because it'll be Zoom and a little different? Crickets.
I think it can still work that way. If what'll happen is Brianna, it's in a webinar format, and so council is on there, and then when it's our turn, Brianna will bring us forward, and then it does have a little bit of a delay if we go too hippity skippity between people. So but it can still happen so that other people, you know, everybody could be a part of it. So Jason, you could still do the accomplishment piece and talk about those elements, And then it could switch to Vito, who could go over the work program, or anybody else that's going to be a part of that. And then you could keep it with just you two. You could have other folks come in if there's specific questions or conversations that we want to start. But it does get a little hiccupy when you have too many people switching from speaker to speaker during a session. So.
And that was kind of my thought. And if we could provide, maybe if we had questions, compile them, and then they would have the questions in advance, we would have the questions in advance, and we've got a little cheat sheet we're going off of, or something like that. Like what you've given us for today is perfect.
Mm-hmm. What might those questions be if we have them?
I'd be interested more in what their thoughts are on Edgewater Park.
Okay.
Mary?
Yeah.
This is Vito. Is there what was their comments about legacy when they adopted that?
They were, we went over bits and pieces with them, sort of like we met with you. And so by the time we got to the final conversation, we were kind of talking about the CIP, which is, $50-some million when you look at all the projects. So I was actually going to send that link out to you today, and I apologize, I got distracted on one of the grants I'm writing. But but they were very, positive. They were very appreciative of the work that's been done over the last several years. Thankful for the partnerships and the grants that we've received to help us move forward. And but overall, they're very supportive of parks, and they think that, the legacy plan is a really informative document, and the way that it was laid out. So there weren't any real questions. Just some questions on, where do we get the cost for this? And how we're the PACA scores. Remember, we did the diversity of activity and the quality of the elements, and so we kind of had to explain that a little bit. And you had a 1 to 3, should you had a 0, that was kind of just stats. But but overall they were very supportive of the document and the work that's being done. So I don't know if you want to ask a question about prioritization. I don't know. Ask a question regarding funding with revenue shortfalls. How do you see that impacting current day Parks and Recreation versus money for capital improvements down the road? That could be a good question.
Yep.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of interested. I mean, COVID is the hot topic, and knowing their position and where the city stands, I think would probably be of interest to all.
Yep, I agree with you, Jason. That's a good one.
So, Jason, say that again. You were talking about it more citywide than relating to Parks and Rec, or how did you want to kind of?
Yeah, and so it's just the question of, I mean, we are all in a new reality, and so we haven't had an in-person meeting in 3 months, and so just kind of talking to them about the current situation and what are the impacts the city of Lakewood is feeling, and then how are we going to move forward and grow out of this. And I think then it's going to define more little questions of, well, when you see what the big picture is for the city, okay, this is how it's going to impact these divisions of the city, being park, public works, streets, you have it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Compile that.
I'm all
Hey,
for
Mary,
after hearing the art plan. Go ahead, Vito.
Just a quick question about with the COVID-19, how's the capital projects? Are they still on schedule? Or are they postponed? Are they pushed out? Where are they at?
Yeah, so the kind of the good thing is that we were sort of in the planning stages for most of the ones that were super active, ready to move forward. And I'll give you an update during the director's report. The ones that were the most delayed are the ones like trying to get bids for like the pavilion project, the smaller ones, getting a shelter built. That's been a challenge to get bids from companies that are reasonable. The big projects have just moved forward as normal. So we're not really behind in anything. It's just trying to keep up, with the half-time person managing all these projects. It's a lot of work, but so far we're okay. I think the biggest question is going to be, hi Bob. I think the biggest question is going to be, are we going to have any match money down the road? Even though they've reduced the project match for RCO, it's still a $1.2 million project, right? So if they only make you give 25% match, they're not giving you any more money than the maximum grant. So anyway.
Okay.
But I do think that's the question. If there's only so much general fund money, do they want to prioritize with capital improvements? Do they want to continue to do community events and gatherings like farmers markets and concerts? They want to, you got a senior center, youth programs, what's going to be what do they think is the highest priority for those limited resources?
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. What else you got?
What about staffing levels for you, Mary? I mean, I know for us in Federal Way, it feels like we never truly recovered from the 2008 downturn in the economy. And, you're just starting to maybe hope you were going to see some light, and now we've hit COVID. I'm sure you obviously don't have as much maintenance staff as you want, but, we've kicked that can down the road as far as maintenance is concerned, and it always is a place where we cut. And again, it's, it's my honey hole, and it's what I want to advocate for. And so any information you have on that and how we can support you, whether you need people or that, so that we can advocate for you in the meeting, just give us those little bits and we'll advocate that way.
Yeah, I think that's going to tie to the priorities for the city, because we probably need to add that M&O. We've been fortunate that the city's supported. We've added so much, not just parks, but landscape areas, gateways. These new every time they build a new street, there's side mow strips. So we've been pretty fortunate that they haven't reduced our budget in that area. They've certainly added more work to it. And then more people are coming every day. So I think during this period of time, a big issue is going to be is, we have a hiring freeze now. There's a big revenue shortfall. What gets taken away? And so I guess that kind of goes back to that prioritization. And is that maintenance of what we have? Is that programming for the older adults? You can't just keep taking 10% out of everything. At some point, you just have to not do something. And so that we might not do if we have to stop doing something. So I think that's going to be the question.
Yep. So, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for council?
I'm okay.
Hearing none.
Okay.
Hearing none. Do you have enough to go on, Mary?
Yeah, I'll send something out. We'll send something out to you. We'll update this a little bit and maybe even add a couple of questions at the bottom so that I'll talk to city manager about how he wants to have that presented. We'll get it so that we're all on the same page, and we can't talk as a group because that constitutes a meeting, but we'll send something out. And if you have thoughts, you can send us something back individually.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll roll on to the director's report.
Ta-da, here I am. Just as
Been sitting at home doing nothing?
oh my gosh, I think we're doing 2 full-time jobs, 3 if you it feels, every day there's a new order and a conversation and an issue and a concern and a change. So it's been just exhausting and a ton of work, because not only are we trying to keep up with what we have, deal with what we have, listen to the citizens who are concerned you're not doing it, listening to the concerned citizens that you are doing it, and then the tattlers. So be responsive. So it's just, we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. I would say overall, I thought people were, once we opened the parks, we closed the parks in March, early March, mid-March. And then it was parking, and then people, we closed gates, and then people were in the neighborhoods. So, but once we sort of opened the parks back up for people, then it kind of settled down, which was nice. And people, I thought, were being pretty responsible and, good, utilizing good social distancing and kind of staying off the, playgrounds. And I thought people were being pretty responsible. We signed the heck out of everything, right? The bathrooms, the shelters, the playgrounds. We've got signs everywhere and constantly replacing them.
Mary, this is Michael. Are the ball fields still closed?
They are closed, yes.
Well, they were playing baseball there last Saturday.
They were, and that's kind of where I was going, Michael. That's a great point. Is that over the weekend, the people are saying, oh, even if you open things up, people aren't really ready to come back, and they're not. Yeah. They were everywhere over the weekend.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and they're on the playgrounds, they're in the picnic shelters, and our fields were closed with signs up that said "fields closed," and where there's a full-on baseball tournament going on, jerseys, barbecues, stands full of people, and it was pretty remarkable. So I think summer hits and people get compliant, and they just think it's like back. So that was pretty scary, and not exact. I mean, we kind of thought people were going to be out and about, but we thought that over the Easter weekend. Remember how it was so nice over the Easter weekend, and we didn't see that. People were being really responsible. People were being really not responsible when it comes to the protocols that have been shared on how people are supposed to be interacting. So that was scary, and also it's interesting to see how that's going to be. And it wasn't just us. We are hearing that from people all over the area. So it'll be interesting to see what the response is going to be. Either are they going to move us to phase 2, or are we going to, strike in some fashion, which just puts us all backwards. So that'll be interesting. But no, the ball fields, long story long, ball fields are not open yet. We did open the restrooms over the weekend, and we didn't really announce it. It was kind of a soft opening to see how people would be responding, which was a good thing because the area was so heavily used. And I don't think that's because the bathrooms are open. I think it was a benefit that they were open. Otherwise, people would have probably just used the parks and the bushes and the trees, which they do. So I think we're going to wait to see what the governor says about opening playgrounds and shelters and things like that. But just to back up a little bit, the legacy plan was approved May 18th, and that was exciting. Shannon, who worked with us, Shannon Kelly Fong, who worked with us on that project, did a great job, took a ton of information, added some new ways of measuring level of service. And so we're thankful for her support, and that was approved. So we'll be moving forward with that. And I'll send you all a link to that, so you have an electronic copy. We'll be looking at printing some too. So those folks that like to have a plan in their hand, if you would like one, we'll be happy to get one to you. But that document is done, and we're moving on. Also, Vito, you had asked about construction. They did approve the contract for Harry Todd Park to get started. They also approved the Angle Lane South project. We did a big bid process, and it was cool. We did the bid openings out in front of City Hall at 2:00 on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So we had a big table out there, and people brought their bids. We stamped them, we opened them, read them out loud in the parking lot, and it was a beautiful day. And so that was kind of a fun way to do it, with music playing in the back. I think Bruce Springsteen was playing in the back, Born in the USA or something. But anyway, the Harry Todd project came in. not super below engineer's estimate, but right on track. So that was good. And also the Angle Lane South. And so Angle Lane will start probably after the first part of June, just because we're trying to get grants out. And then Harry Todd, they'll be given their notice to proceed, although they won't start until September. There's a lot of prefab things they can get working on now, like the finger docks, the fishing pier, those can be site and then brought to the site for construction. So that's exciting. And so those are moving forward. And then currently we're working on 5 different grants. Actually, there's 6 grants, but one of them got turned in last week. And now we have 5 more that are due by a week from yesterday. So we're working on 2 grants for American Lake, and then they'll match each other. 2 grants for Ward's Lake that will match each other, plus a youth athletic fund for a pump track at Ward's Lake to help provide more money for that. And then the turf infield project, which we were working on with the state allocation, the bids came in much higher than what we had anticipated. So we're looking at alternatives for that. So we're going to be also writing another grant to see if we can get some more money to help offset that project cost. And as you recall, we're also working with Pierce College to take a look at one of those 4 fields and turn it, and then having them invest $1 million or so and making it really their home field and having it be really a nice field that we'll have access to when they're not using it. So that's cool. That's a good investment for our community too. Again, we're following the governor's orders. You know, I don't know if you're seeing my picture, but we've got our charts. We're still in phase 1. The idea is maybe we'll go into phase 2 June 1st. Not sure that's going to happen. We are looking at starting our farmers market Friday, June 18th. Farmers market are considered essential, and so we could have started it as early as we needed to, but we're really looking at how we can thoughtfully get people in and out in a controlled manner, how we can control social distancing. They're very regulated, as in you can't have, like right now, no entertainment and youth activities and all the fun stuff that we do that make it fun, but that'll come later in the summer. Right now we can have prepared food, but you can't eat on site. So basically everybody has to pack up their stuff and go. You go over and sit on the grass somewhere. We can't stop them, but the farmers markets are very regulated. So we're going to be starting that June 18th. And it's just, we're going to do it at Fort Steilacoom. It's going to be on Fridays. We're not going to be doing the night market. Did we send you, Nikki, did we send them all the stuff, that chart? I bet you we did not.
No, we didn't send that.
We'll send that out to you folks. And the reason is it's all been happening while we didn't meet. You know, we had to meet with council. We ended up meeting with them the first part of May, and we put an action plan together, which they concurred with, on what we aren't going to do this summer, what we're going to try and do this summer. And so we'll send that your way, so you have that, you'll be in the loop as to what we're doing and what we're not doing. But as you know, Summerfest was canceled. We are going to look at doing the summer concerts in August. Oh, pardon me, mid-July and August. And we believe that we can create social distancing in the by the pavilion area. We are looking to do our summer day camp program. The schools want us to be in phase 3 in order to offer those spaces. We have some alternatives to consider if that doesn't work. And then if you're familiar with the phases, it's slow build to, 25 and under gathering. So maybe that's when we open up shelters for limited numbers. After a certain period of time, it can be 50. So that gives us more capacity for the larger shelters and some special events. And then, after mid-July, we can add more things. We are creating protocols for things like our shelters, for things like baseball tournaments, official legal baseball tournaments. So that we'll be putting some recommendations and some protocols in place. So if folks want to provide those opportunities, then they'll be doing it in a safe manner. And that's kind of where we're at. Every day is a new adventure. It seems like every time we turn around, there's a new idea or a new restriction or a new way of doing things. The really cool thing is that when this all started, you know, we have a Pierce County group that we sort of manage. We meet about once every 3 or 4 months. King County is way more organized. They have a directors group and they meet typically every month. So we started merging those groups at the beginning of this process. And since then, you know, Thurston County, Snohomish County, and now Eastern Washington's in the game. We have a couple people from Oregon that are joining us. So I know, Jason, you've been on some of those calls. So pretty much every Monday and Thursday, there's probably 85 to 100 professionals of all sizes of community, all ranks of within the system that are on the call, and they're coordinated. There's a topic, there's speakers, there's information. It's really been exciting from a networking, from a information sharing and gathering. And it's been really great to hear kind of everybody's sort of doing their thing a little bit differently and different timing based on their community, but really strong network and a strong advocacy group. So, so that's been, you know, a positive for the park and rec profession. So that's what we're doing.
Good.
Any questions?
Hey,
From my
Mary.
perspective, you guys are doing great.
I beg your pardon?
Hey, Mary, I had a question about American Lake. I was driving around over the weekend and I saw a lot of trees down. What's the deal there? Is it a project?
Yeah, at American Lake, that has to do with the Veterans Drive project. The Veterans Drive, they're redoing the road from Gravelly Lake all the way to the VA hospital. They're
Okay.
putting sidewalks. They're repaving
Okay.
the road and adding a bunch of traffic circles. So they were out last week taking out a bunch of trees.
Mm.
A couple of them were in and around American Lake Park because of the project, and also in conjunction with that, they're going to be adding capacity to our parking lot, the car parking lot.
Okay.
So, you know, during the summertime, it's overflow like crazy. And so I think they're going to be adding about 40 or 50 spots to it. So
Okay.
look nearly as pretty as it does, but it'll serve a purpose. So.
Okay.
One of the things we did find during the Edgewater process is that we did find there's some hazardous trees there. So we are going to be closing the road down sometime in the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple of days. I don't know. Depends on how fast they work. And we'll be taking some of those hazardous trees down. So I'm sure that'll work those neighbors a little bit, thinking that we're moving forward, but we're really not moving forward with the master plan. We're just taking those trees down because we saw that they, you know, were hazardous. And so we're doing that while we can.
Okay.
Any other board member comments? All right, we are next month or
Just a second.
2 weeks away. Oop.
Michael, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I was just going to say I'm good.
Okay.
All right, 2 weeks away, June 8th, everybody, the probably Zoom meeting, joint council. And with that being said, I would say meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Thanks, everyone. Be safe. Happy birthday, Michael. Should we sing happy birthday to him? Is he...
That's quite all right.
Let's sing, everybody. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
To you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
Michael
dear
Lackady. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you.
There's another way to understand how old you are. When you go on computer and they're asking for identification stuff, you know, for the bank or whatever. And when it takes you a good 5 or 6 minutes to scroll down to your birth date, the year, you realize how old you are.
I'm right behind you there, Michael.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Be well. We'll
Thank
keep
you.
you in the loop.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, perfect timing. 6 minutes to share.